All right, RGR. And how about those Chiefs? We're finally making it happen. I can never do a successful intro when we're live for the life of me. So let's hang out with Dan, the man Harms. Just made up that nickname. But first, all right, Dan. You go by Dan? You go by Daniel? What do you prefer?
I go whatever, man. I'm all, guys, call me what you want as long as it's not Danny. I'll be good to go.
All right, that's fine. That's my wife's name, so I ain't calling you Danny. So
there we go. We're good.
We're good. Well, I don't have an epic intro built for you, but I only know like the tip of the iceberg of what you do. So I know you're putting in a lot of work with RGR. You're doing a lot of draft content. You want to share, for those probably the 5 people watching that don't know who you are, can you just let people know who you are, what you do? Because it's more than just RGR. I feel like you're doing stuff with NFL 33, but I thought you were also with FF Astronauts.
Yep.
So yeah, fill them in. Let us know.
Oh man, you're generous with that. You got us beat by like quite a few subscribers. So there's a lot of people here that don't know what I do, and that's perfectly okay. We are all about film at RGR Football, at least on my end. That's what I do. I'm a film analyst. And yeah, it's not just RGR, it's the Fantasy Football Astronauts. I do draft breakdowns there, fantasy football content for them throughout the season, throughout the offseason. NFL 33, all NFL teams. We try to cover everything right now. It's heavy into the draft. But this is there's that. I got stuff on TikTok as well at In Harm's Way 19. Content is flowing every single day, all times. Like I feel like it doesn't stop. And then, my daughter. So I'm a busy guy.
Yeah, because you're holding it down. I mean, I don't know how, you don't have to go like super personal, but I know you were in the military, I believe. And I think, did you get injured?
No, I have Crohn's disease and they kicked me out.
Oh, you have Crohn's. Okay, that's why?
Yeah.
Okay. That's crazy. I mean, I don't have an autoimmune disease, but I've been trying to work through some stuff. I have a couple bulging discs. I've had 4 surgeries in the past 5 or 6 years. So I relate on some level, trying to figure life out. So being able to work from home for me is awesome. And I know that your wife, I believe, still in the military. She's traveling. You're holding it down with your daughter. You're doing stuff for NFL 33, RGR, the draft stuff with the Astronauts. So, man, you are holding it down, and much respect to you for all you do, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. It's this is what really this draft time is what the collective everything is about, because we can get through all the Chiefs stuff, but getting into this, the meat and potatoes of the draft season, it's a grind unlike anything that I know. There's so many guys to watch. There's so many prospects to try to get to. I won't get to, obviously, all of them that will be drafted, but I try to get as many of the top 100 that I can before draft day. So that's the goal for me every year, and that's what it is when it comes down to when the season ends. It's like click right over to draft season, and then we just keep going.
Yeah, I've just started putting the old toes into the pond of draft stuff, and it's not even to give like overly thoughtful opinions on the people. It's just to try to keep up. I mean, I get a lot of draft questions even now, and I'm like, I don't know how to. It's its own beast, so I don't even know how to really tackle that when running the channel with doing shorts every day, daily vids, even the live streams. Like, I don't even know. So I'm like, I'm going to pull in a bunch of people that are way smarter than me, like you. Like, I'm sure I'll get some, couple of the guys maybe from KCSN. I shared with you the other week. I had an episode with that franchise guy here on YouTube, and that was fun. But yeah, man, I'm all about pulling people in that really know their stuff. And dude, I've been following RGR since before I even started a channel. So it's been a lot of fun just to see you guys continue to crush out content.
That's all we're doing, man. We're trying to keep up with you. You're just blowing away the subscriptions over here. Y'all are doing great. And, Cole's been fantastic. So I love seeing all the fans in here. I know that there's a few people I've seen in the chat that are, subs at RGR. So I appreciate all y'all coming out to watch us finally get this collab going. I have a feeling this isn't going to be the last time that we're on here together, whether it's here or RGR. We'll definitely have more for you guys.
Yeah, heck yeah. And I always tell people when they start asking me more detailed questions, I'm like, hey, y'all need to go to RGR KCSN if you want some of those answers. But that's why we're pulling you in. let's talk. I mean, we could talk free agency moves so far and maybe give some of your thoughts there. Let's talk today. This is the most recent, nothing crazy for us Chiefs fans, but it was the second of 3 free agent wide receivers for the Chiefs went off the board. McCole Hardman, 1 year with the New York Jets, possibly catching passes from Aaron Rodgers next season, which is kind of crazy to think about. Thoughts on that signing? Were you surprised? I'll just say this. I was a little surprised it was 1 year so cheap. I mean, I realize he's coming off of the injury, but it's 1 year up to $6.5 million, and who knows what the base salary is. At least I haven't seen any update on it yet, on his contract details.
Yeah, I would imagine it's like 1 year, $3 to $4 million for your base salary is what I would imagine. Then you have all those not guarantees, but everything that's worked in for trying to get up to that. We saw that with Juju Smith-Schuster last year. You can get up to a certain amount. So, I expected him to kind of go somewhere. I thought it would be a little bit more than that. I think we all thought that, and that why the Chiefs weren't in, if that's what it was going to be. That tells you a little bit about how they feel, not just about McCole Hardman, but how they're going to continue to address the wide receiver position, whether it's going to be through trade, signing a guy like Odell Beckham, whether it's going to be through the draft. I know they're going to at least draft one guy this year, and they have some guys on the practice squad that they like. I know everyone's all about Justin Ross, especially after those clips that came out the other day, yesterday actually, right after Ryan and I talked about we haven't seen anything from him all off season. They all dropped yesterday. So I don't think that's a coincidence that we were talking about it on Monday and then those videos drop on Tuesday. So it was kind of funny to see that go through. But the fact of the matter is that they're right now in a bind at wide receiver. They have 2 guys that are younger with Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, and then you have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who, had a great game in the AFC Championship game. They don't win the Super Bowl without that performance. He had a great game. But again, one game, a couple times, Mahomes missed him down the field. So they're still in a kind of a mini crisis at wide receiver in terms of experience. They have one guy on their roster with experience. That's not a great place to be in, but we do know that Patrick Mahomes can make just about anything work at the wide receiver position. I'm starting to think that one of these 2 guys is really in play. I don't know who it's going to be, whether it's going to be Odell or whether it's going to be Hopkins, but I think Brett Veach is cooking up something back there and trying to play both sides of the market here to be like, hey, you try to drive that price down just a little bit. As we see with Hopkins in particular, we know that the Cardinals are not getting the pick that they wanted originally. It's going to continue to drop and drop. So we'll see that fall out. But, all hats off to McCole Hardman having a really nice, he fought through that injury to get to the AFC Championship game and had, a really impactful play fighting to get that first down, and unfortunately was injured again, and he had to have that surgery. So hope the best for him. Imagine having your first 2 quarterbacks in the NFL be Patrick Mahomes and then Aaron Rodgers, assuming that happens. That'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. Hats off to McCole. Much respect to him. Came in kind of like when he got drafted, he came in kind of with big shoes to fill. We know why he was potentially drafted. I mean, the Chiefs obviously liked him, but I know Hill was going through some issues at the time. So they're bringing in, this is just my thoughts. They're bringing in a perceived speed guy. And when you are targeted behind Kelsey and Hill, there's got to be a lot of pressure there. And again, some people are saying, he did not live up to expectations. But 2021, he had almost 700 yards, a couple TDs. This season, he played like the first half injured with the heel injury. And honestly, was almost, I don't have the stats pulled up, but he was almost like 300 yards and had like 6 TDs or something. It was like 4 in the air, 2 on the ground. Or I think it was 6, right? I'm almost positive it was. And that's with him spending 10 plus games on IR.
Right.
So they definitely utilized him. And yeah, I did not see him coming back basically once they grabbed Kadarius Toney. Even though I know we probably have some of our own reservations of Toney ourselves just with his injury history. But for all intents and purposes, if they can get him healthy enough to play 80% of games next season, that's going to be good things. So happy for McCole. Juju moved on. This is interesting. I saw a tweet from Zach Eisen today on Twitter. I don't know if you follow him, but he basically said something along the lines of, based on what we saw the Patriots sign Juju for and what we saw the Jets sign Hardman for. The fact that the Chiefs didn't bite on any of those guys, I mean, shows that they have some sort of a plan, I would think.
I'm sorry, sweetie. This is the trials and tribulations of my daughter. So you guys, most of you, if you watch on RGR, you know this is not a unregular occurrence. But I'm sorry, sweetie. What's up? Okay, come here.
My daughter does the same, but Danny's upstairs holding. She's like the force field to the office.
What's that?
You can find out tomorrow. Okay. All right. So I don't know what it's called. I haven't looked at it.
Hi,
all right, sweetie.
It's the MVP.
Yeah, you wanted to cuddle. You're the one that wanted to cuddle. So, all right, yeah, I feel the same way, that there's something cooking with Brett Veach in the offense in terms of what they're going to do at wide receiver. And you don't say no to bringing some of these guys back if you don't think you're going to be able to fill some of their shoes with guys that you have, and then also have a plan in place to back up. Because going into the offseason and the draft with basically 3 guys that played snaps for you last year is a bad place to be. It's not a good place to be. So there's something going on. There's definitely a plan there. I wonder what it's going to be. Personally, like, I'm very excited about this time between now and the draft to see what he's going to do. But I think for the most part, those of us that have been here for the entire Brett Veach time, he's got a plan. And maybe it doesn't always work exactly the way he wants it to, but they find a way to get the best out of that plan. When you go to 3 Super Bowls and you win 2 of them, I'm pretty okay with what he's going to end up doing in that situation.
Do you think there's somebody, because I'm like trying to process through, is there anybody Veach could possibly be looking at that is younger, maybe still on their rookie deal, that could potentially be traded for? I mean, Brandon Ayuk, I love the idea, but I'm like, I don't know if the 49ers will let that guy go. That's a dog. And then you've got to think that's draft capital. Then you're about to have to sign somebody like that to a deal within the next year or 2. So does anybody strike your interest as far as, like, because I know most of the free agents are off the board. I mean, there's some veteran guys. There's Odell. I think Jarvis Landry's still out there. Obviously, the D-Hop trade is still that rumor mill, and that's still being talked about everywhere. That's not impossible. But is there anybody else from any other team that's 25, like Charles Omenihu, like Justin Reed was last year, like anybody else that the Chiefs have brought in, 25, 26, that I don't know. How old is she?
There you go. She's 4. Sweetie, if I turn this red, then no one will be able to hear me. That's the mute
Avery
button.
Is the star of RGR, said Adam Foster.
Yeah, I see that. She's definitely going to be coming into this industry in the next few years where she's actually talking, I think. So we're working on that. But I don't right now. Like, I haven't looked at a ton of the players, the 25-year and under. Elijah Moore was a guy that I would have liked to see, but I think I didn't. think
he's gone to the Browns.
Traded. I didn't think he was going to get traded, and I tweeted that. You guys can actually go find it on Twitter. I literally have a tweet that says there's no way he's getting traded.
That tweet is actually so funny. I'm going to pull it up because it had me laughing. Here it is, guys. Dan said, the Jets aren't trading the second best wide receiver on their team because they signed Lazard and Hardman. They'll cut Davis and trade Mims. 5 minutes later, Elijah Moore gets traded. He says, well, at least I didn't have to wait long to be made fool of. Well done, Jets. I was laughing at that one.
Yeah, I mean,
it happens.
I told a couple people, like, I'll own it if I'm wrong. I have no issues being wrong. But that was just not something I was expecting. 45 minutes later, they trade him. So that was interesting. I'd love to see Brandon Ayuk, but again, like you said, I don't think there's any way that they're. But granted, what do I know? What do I know? Right. Obviously, they weren't trading Elijah Moore. I personally think Brandon Ayuk's the best complete actual receiver in San Francisco. I love Deebo Samuel. I love him a lot, but he's not the most refined route runner. He's better than he used to get credit for, but he's not Brandon Ayuk, and he still has upside there too. So that offense, I think, is going to try and stay together with whoever's throwing the football for them, whoever it ends up being. So yeah, again, like I said, this is Brett Veach has like that kind of mind and that kind of thing. He's got these guys up all the time. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets did end up trading a guy like Denzel Mims, who I was pretty high on before the draft. I still think he's getting a raw deal in New York. So I don't really know what they're going to end up doing there. But I don't really have, like I said, I don't have many eyes on these guys. But it would be interesting to kind of go through that list and see who's going to be coming up for contracts and who maybe they'd be looking to interested in.
Even just looking at the Chiefs cap situation, they don't have a lot of room at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's under 10 million, but that's with, let me think. That's without the contract of Omenihu. I don't know if that's gone through yet, or Mike Edwards. Then you need a few $1 million for draft picks. I mean, do you see a Chris Jones extension incoming? Like, is that where, because like, where else are they getting money to make some of these moves? I mean, you got thoughts on that?
That's the only place that it can come from. I think you have that or a Travis Kelce extension, which I also think is possible. He's a little underpaid, and I think that they would like to get that done as well in the next year or two. But those are the two guys that you're looking at for extensions, and then being able to actually create a little bit of cap relief this year. Because, last year Chris Jones' cap it was $29 million. And not one person said anything about that, which when you're getting 16 sacks in the season, no one's going to say a word about it. So, those are the only two options you really have, Avery.
Yeah, and his cap hit right now is going to be 28-ish, 28 point something if they don't do something. But that's where they could definitely free up room for the Chiefs to make a few more moves. They have enough money right now for some small signings, I would think. But definitely interesting. But with that being said, man, we've kind of talked wide receivers and free agency, other teams. Do you have thoughts, as you're able, because I know you're wrangling the star, do you have thoughts on wide receivers that you currently have eyes on in the draft? Not necessarily, like, I know there's wide receivers that are going to go early that the Chiefs probably will more than likely not get to, but are there any, I don't know, the third, fourth, fifth, somebody that could fall in at least the back half of round 1 or maybe round 2 that you think, hey, this guy could fit potentially in the Chiefs scheme, or I'd like to see, this guy here?
So I'm a big fan of Josh Downs out of North Carolina. He's a little smaller on the scale. This is a draft that's full of like smaller, really good route running and yak receivers. They get labeled gadget guys. Not all of them are gadget guys. They can run some routes, like I think Zay Flowers and Josh Downs are two of those players. Avery, sweetie, you gotta stop doing that. Okay, you gotta stop doing that. But Josh Downs is one of the guys. He was my wide receiver 4 coming into this season, and right now he's sitting at my wide receiver 3. I have him there, and I don't think he's going to be a first round pick, but I think that he's probably closer to like the end of not the end, but the middle top half of the second round. So that would be somebody that I'd like to see them, if they're at 31, kind of reach a little bit on them if there's nobody else on the board. But again, that's a little bit of a reach for the Chiefs. Later, you got guys like Charles Tillman out of Tennessee. He's on the X-receiver train. He's a bit quicker. He had a little bit of an ankle injury last year at Tennessee, but if you go back to 2021, watch him against Georgia and Alabama where he absolutely torched them. That's the guy that I think, if he's healthy, is the one in Kansas City that makes a lot of sense. He has short area quickness. He can run really nice routes. He's more gifted after the catch than a lot of guys his size, and he also has the speed to take off the tops of defenses at times. So I really like him a lot. There's probably some guys later. I like Jaden Reed. I'm going to talk about Jaden Reed all offseason. I have been all offseason already. Wide receiver out of Michigan State. And he's a guy that can do it all. He also is a really nice returner. So if you're trying to get a guy like Avery, sweetie, get out of the way, please. Thank you.
You don't want Sky Moore returning?
I don't want him or Kadarius Toney returning punts.
Yeah.
Because I want Kadarius to be as fresh as possible, and returning punts.
Yeah, save that man.
Not allowed him to do that. So he's a guy that can play X, he can play Z, he can play slot, and then he can do a lot of stuff on special teams. So I like him a lot. Those are 3 guys that I personally think fit in what the Chiefs want to do, and in terms of creating separation, having a little bit of a bigger body, and be a special teams players. Nice.
Love it, man. I mean, I'm kind of with you on let's not have Kadarius return unless he has to, even though he has the longest punt return in Super Bowl history. I'm for it.
Avery, I said it was time's up, okay?
Dan's holding it down, man. Dad of the year.
I'm
That's
trying.
what that's what I tell Dan. He's taking his daughter to like.
Edwin, please.
He's taking her on trips. I don't know. Did you take her to the Senior Bowl?
I did take her to the Senior Bowl.
She knocked your light down. But I think it's okay.
Go back to bed, please.
D-Hop would be interesting in KC, says Joe, and say what? Yeah, certainly interesting. I actually watched some of DeAndre Hopkins Highlights earlier today from this past season. Then I read the article from Seth Kaiser, and he dropped an article on the pros and cons of the Chiefs trading for DeAndre Hopkins. And I found this interesting, guys. I'll pull this up and like share it with you because this is super interesting. Here was the stats. So Seth Kaiser dropped an article looking at the D-Hop trade to KC. He said in D-Hop's 5 games with Kyler last season, because remember, he was suspended for the first 6 weeks, okay? Then Kyler and him only played 5 games together before Kyler got hurt, all right? And then he didn't even play his last couple games anyway, talking about D-Hop, but they played 5 games together. And in those 5 games from Kyler Murray, 37 receptions for 464 yards and 3 TDs. Well, if you average that out to a full 17 games, obviously this is a very rough average because there's going to be ebbs and flows, and that's assuming D-Hop was to be healthy all season. Okay, I get all that. It's not 100% apples to apples average, but dude, if he would have averaged even just those stats, that would have been 125 receptions for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. So I would definitely say D-Hop still has gas left in the tank, juice. But the question is, are the Chiefs going to be willing to give up a couple draft picks for him? And is he for sure going to be willing to work out the last couple of years of his deal that, like he said on the Pat McAfee show? So that I do like the idea. Whoever said that about D-Hop coming here, I do like that indeed. Holy smokes. Greg Coleman just dropped 20 gifted, and then while we're here, Dan, you can jump back in anytime. I know you're holding it down with your daughter, so you're all good. And then oh darn with the 2, RGR. Do you need a brisket, bro? Oh darn, he made me brisket and brought it to my house, on my grandma's house, and we ate food. Fantastic, highly recommend. HD Dreamin' with the 20 bomb. Appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for the support, Greg Coleman, the legend, with the 20 bomb.
Okay, sweetie. Thank you. Oh man, fun stuff.
Hey man,
Fun stuff.
I got two kids under the age of 7, so I don't. I mean, I'm not saying you do or don't, but don't feel bad. It's all good, man. We're just here hanging out. I'm just happy to connect and collab, man. Do you think? There's been a lot of talk about how great this of a tight end class this is.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the Chiefs could find somebody? I know you probably haven't dug all the way into every tight end, but maybe it's not a round 1, round 2 tight end, but do you feel confident because of the perceived depth? And I'm speaking from not a lot of experience here with the draft, but do you think there's somebody that interests you or that might interest the Chiefs for a couple reasons? We know, one, Travis Kelce is going to be 34 soon. He's not dipping in production, but you've got to kind of think about it at least a little bit. And then I don't know if Blake Bell's coming back. He was a healthy scratch in the end of the postseason, and I don't know if his hip was bothering him. He had hip surgery earlier in the year. I don't know what that looks like for Blake. Maybe he does return, but I just don't know with him. So any tight end thoughts, I would welcome it. And I was kind of like, I don't know if you said this on RGR or if KCSN said it, or I just saw it on Twitter, but someone was like, dude, what about Dalton Schultz? Like, just pairing him up with, that didn't happen, obviously, but they're just, with the wide receiver market getting so thin, they were starting to explore tight ends coming in. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on tight ends in the draft? Anybody interest you? Anybody you think the Chiefs can get realistically?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of options at tight end in this draft. And when I'm looking at what the Chiefs could be doing, we know that they just want to surround Patrick Mahomes with weapons. Last year, they were the most efficient 13 personnel offense. And if for those of you that don't know, 13 personnel is when you have 3 tight ends on the field, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver. That gives you a little bit of a clue into what they might be looking to do this year. If they go the route of younger receivers, try and develop them a little bit, you can bring in more tight ends. We know Jody Fortson's coming back. We know Noah Gray stepped into a larger role last year. And if they draft another tight end, we're talking about 4 tight ends in a room that you could really do a lot of fun stuff with. And I think that when you're so efficient at doing that, you have a run game now that's going to be focused around Isaiah Pacheco, and I would assume another rookie and or free agent being brought in. I do think they're going to draft another running back to complement Isaiah Pacheco. But you have that ability to run the football now. When you have that out of 13 personnel, you really open up defenses because it forces them to be more in their base personnel on defense with that extra linebacker on the field typically. And that's when they get creative. We've seen Jody Fortson down the sideline with big bombs. We've seen Noah Gray getting chunk gains over the middle of the field with little screens here and there. And then we've seen them been able to run out of 13 personnel. Obviously, Travis Kelce, that's all spoken for. So you think about, instead of just they need wide receivers, they need weapons, okay? Tight ends, this tight end group is athletic. There are some really nice later round options. I think that even in the first round, there's a couple guys that I think will be on the Chiefs' radar. I don't think they're going to draft in the first round personally, but I know that Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame was mocked to the Chiefs by a couple people that I know. So I did a breakdown on Michael Mayer on rgrfootball.com just to give everyone an idea of what he looks like, how Notre Dame uses him, and how he could actually fit into Kansas City. There's another tight end out of Utah, Dalton Kincaid. He gets a lot of Travis Kelce comps. He's not a great blocker. He's actually much worse than Travis Kelce is in terms of a blocker, but he's a very athletic, nice pass catcher, does everything you want to, can go locate the football. He spots soft spots in defenses. He runs really good routes. But then I'm looking more on day 3. Everyone's looking at, Darnell Washington, the 6'7" tight end out of Georgia who ran a 4.6. The dude's insane. He's probably going to be a second round pick. I like some of the options on day 3. I'm a Michigan fan, so I got to watch Luke Schoonmaker up close every single week. He tested as one of the best, most athletic tight ends in this draft class. He's going to be a day 3 pick. And when I went back and I was watching him and I was watching the Michigan offense, this dude was always open. He was a check down relief valve for that offense and for a young quarterback, someone he trusts. And we know Mahomes has a trust factor with a lot of his receivers, and he's someone that could come in. He's really smart. He understands an offense, and they do a really good job of not featuring him, but letting him do what's best. He didn't do a ton with Yak, which I would have liked to see more of at Michigan, but he's definitely going to be an option. There's also a lot of Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion. This is a 6'7" tight end who ran a 4.5 40. He's big. He can block a little bit more. Like, he's a big, fast dude. So there's a lot of fans of Zach Kuntz in the chat. I know I've seen a couple of them already. But this is a really nice draft. It's deep with athletes, and I really like what the options are at tight end on day 3, especially if the Chiefs are just like, let's just add weapons. Who cares if they're tight ends, they're running backs, they're wide receivers? We'll figure it out. I love that.
Dude, yes, thank you. I'm curious about the tight end situation just because of how Andy Reid's been able to kind of make things happen. I mean, Travis Kelce was a dog, I mean, from the jump. And his draft story, I don't want to rabbit trail down it, but it is so funny when Andy Reid calls. He says, "Let me talk to your brother." He hands the phone to Jason. Andy Reid says, "Is your brother going to mess this up?" Like, the draft story is so funny, man. But yeah, I love Kelce. Well, it's interesting to me, man, when we talk about tight ends, 2 of the greatest possibly ever, at least 2 in the top 3, top 5 category, played for the Chiefs. I don't know if we'll ever see another like either of them, but hopefully the Chiefs start taking some swings a little bit. So I love that idea. Greg Coleman, sorry, I don't interrupt normally, but Greg Coleman with another 20 gifted. Holy smokes, dude. You're going crazy tonight. Thank you, man. I saw a question in here. Dan. Samuel said, "Cole, ask him what he thinks is an absolute need in the first round." Let's just say this. If free agency plays out, maybe the Chiefs make another couple small moves. Even let's say they do sign like a veteran wide receiver. It's maybe even nobody we're thinking of right now. I don't know that the Chiefs will go into the draft without at least a veteran. Even with that, they make maybe a couple other small splash moves. But let's say the roster mainly is how it is right now. Round 1, obviously Brett Veach said, we'll take the best guy for a needed position, but will definitely, like, they moved up for Trent McDuffie, and they may be, I mean, that surprised me. So right now, what do you think would be a couple of, they probably need to look and grab? I mean, I'm thinking edge, tackle, or wide receiver. I don't know in what order. Are you kind of the same mindset?
Yeah, those are the three positions that you absolutely need. And I know that, I'm just going to blank on his name because I'm terrible. Jeff Schwartz tweeted he doesn't understand why a tackle is being mocked to Kansas City. Well, yeah, I saw that. I don't know, Greg. I don't know, Jeff. Maybe it's because Lucas Niang is a what? Maybe. We don't know. If he has more information, that'd be awesome, but I don't think he does. Like, I'm not trying to rag on him, but I don't think he knows that Lucas Niang is going to be the starter next year. I would love to say he is. And even if he is, who are your backup tackles? You have none. You have no backup tackles. Like, I like Prince, but he's not a starter. He's not really a backup at this point. He's like an emergency. Just
break in case of emergency. Yep.
Yeah, they don't have backup tackles. So if you don't have a backup, you really don't have starters, because injuries happen, especially with a guy who's often been injured in the NFL already, in Lucas Niang. You have to have tackle position always going, especially with Patrick Mahomes. You got to be able to protect him. So tackle is definitely an option. The sneaky one is defensive tackle. If a guy like Jalen Carter's off-field issues, drop him down the board. If he starts to free fall, he is probably somebody that they will trade up for. I won't say I'm like uber confident that they'll do it, but I don't think that they're going to stay at 31. I'll just say that. I don't think that there's almost any way that they stay at 31 in this draft, unless guys are just only 2 quarterbacks go in the top 10 and then all the tackles and all the edges are gone. I don't see them staying at 31. I think they're going to trade up to get an edge or a tackle depending on who falls. But I think personally it's going to be edge because of the way that this tackle class is. There's going to be some athletic guys in the second round on day 2 and second and third round. I think that they're going to have to make a splash at the defensive end. We know, statistically speaking, at the end of the first round, tackles and defensive ends don't really hit very much. They don't hit very often. So by that line of logic, you have to go up to get a guy that you're comfortable with and that you think is going to be able to pair with George Karlaftis for the long haul. I like Omenwu, but he's a backup guy that you can rotate in on there and pass rush downs and have place some spot starts if you need him to. So I personally think defensive ends where they're going to go in round 1, given the landscape of how everything's gone off.
Dude, I'm not the biggest conspiracy theorist, and I don't even think it's going to hold up, but I'm like, what if Jalen Carter completely tanked his workout on purpose? I don't know that I don't know if that's 100% why he did that. He's going through a lot of stuff off the field, like a lot. So it's probably that. But I don't even know if teams would bite on the poor pro day. They might be like, yeah, we've seen the tape. Like, he ain't falling. About that. What about, well, here's this. Before we move on to this next question, we were just talking about tight ends. Somebody said, do you guys have thoughts on Matt Bushman? I know he was signed to a reserve future deal. He made a splash a little bit in preseason. I think it was the Packers game. He actually kind of went off before he broke his clavicle. I don't have any thoughts other than he could definitely contribute and fight for a potential roster spot. Do you have any thoughts on him immediately when you hear his name?
I think Matt Bushman's a good 4 or 5 tight end or a move tight end, someone you can bring in to have like maybe as a fullback. They don't have a fullback anymore. Like that's what I feel like he could do at this point. And I don't think he's necessarily going to be hugely involved. But again, you don't really know what he was going to do going into the last year when he broke his clavicle. So that would be nice to, get a little bit more with him to see what he has, because there's some athletic upside there, obviously, with some of the receiving skills that he has. So I'd like to see a little bit more out of him before I get an idea of, he's just going to be like a practice squad guy. But yeah, I think that there's nothing really saying that he won't play. I just see him more as like a fullback / 4 or 5 tight end guy.
It was interesting to see Michael Burton get signed to the Broncos. And I know he's reunited with Sean Payton, but I was like, could this be the end? I mean, Ryan wouldn't like to hear this, but I'm like, could this be the end of a fullback with Andy Reid? Part of me thinks, nah, they'll bring one in. I'm sure Mike Burton played more special team snaps than we can even, like, I'd have to look it up, but I'm sure he played quite a bit of special teams. And he was in there blocking, but Yeah, be curious to see what happens with that. Certainly interesting. Unless you have thoughts on fullback, we can move on.
I don't really have thoughts on fullback.
Okay.
This is where Ryan and I disagree. I don't think the Chiefs roster a fullback.
Yeah, I'd be curious if they didn't roster a fullback. I was thinking about this. I was like, do they have another running back? Do they have I'm talking about dressing out. They have another running back dressing out, another receiver. Like, what are they doing with that extra spot? It would be interesting to kind of see what they decided to do. Yeah, I mean, you can weigh in on that. I was just looking at the next question here. I would
choose it for another wide receiver personally. Just keep throwing wide receivers at them.
I mean, dude, if you got wide receivers like, I mean, Kadarius Toney, for example, that you can throw in the backfield. I mean, they were handing him counters. I mean, they were doing all kinds of stuff. Draft another quick guy. I don't know where they'll go in the draft for a wide receiver, but Sky Moore. I mean, they didn't ever really use this, but you remember training camp. They were having him working out of the backfield. And I jokingly said Sky's Debo in a video, but it's because Charles Goldman said, is Sky the new Debo? I was like, I don't think so, but they are using him out of the backfield. That never happened, really. So it'd be interesting. You have an extra wide receiver, and they're just moving all around, man. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the Chiefs are moving a little bit more to, I won't say positionless football, because it's really more taboo to say positionless football, because you have to have your offensive line, you have to have wide receivers in terms of scheme. But the Chiefs seem to want to have guys that can do everything, that they can continuously move around, whether it's the backfield, whether it's as like an inline tight end, whether it's as like an H-back, someone who's detached but still behind the line of scrimmage, like a fullback, but also not really, and then wide receivers that play everywhere that you can line up in line at times. They really do like to have this positional versatility that allows them so much freedom. Even offensive linemen go run a route. We don't really care. We'll throw you a one in the end zone. Like they like being creative. So I like the way that they're trending in the sense that tight end, running back, wide receiver, they want to have these guys that are so versatile and so unique that they can just continuously run out different formations and try to confuse defenses.
Dude, Andy Reid, man, he's the best. He's underrated, in my opinion. I know he's like one of the top coaches, but I said in a video recently that Andy Reid, what did I say? Andy Reid's the best coach in the NFL. If not, he's top 3, top 5. And I had a couple comments saying there's no way Andy Reid is a top 5 coach in the NFL. I'm like, y'all trolling? You have to be trolling.
Yeah, right. I don't understand any of this. He's a top 3 coach of all time. Like, I think he is personally right now. I think he's easily going to be one of them, but if not top 2 by the time this is all said and done. I think he's incredible. And now he's gotten over the hump. He broke the seal with that first Super Bowl. They got back to another one, and now they have another Super Bowl under the belt. Like, this is all for Andy Reid and what Patrick Mahomes, everything that they're doing. It's incredible. And I think that a lot of people focus on the end of game situations that happened in Philadelphia that kind of crept in here and his early stint with Kansas City. But I don't think you can argue with anything he's done over the last 4 or 5 years in terms of endgame situations. He's been really good at it. He's gotten so much better. And, they've won. They've got Super Bowl wins to show you that he's been able to get better at it. So the arguments against Andy Reid have continuously gone away year after year.
Yeah, man. I've been a Chiefs fan my whole life, and these past 5 years has been insane, just to say the least. When we won the first Super Bowl, I cried. I shed a couple thug tears. I was in shock this last one, but I was streaming it, so I was just trying to call the game and take it all in. But insane, man. Here's a few more questions I saw pop up as we were chatting. We were talking about wide receivers. So here's this. How about Justin Watson returning, or like coming back? He's a free agent. I'm not surprised if that happens, even if it's for depth on a pretty cheap deal. You have thoughts there?
I think he probably will be, in terms of what we've seen the Chiefs do. Guys like Demarcus Robinson stay out there for their market and then eventually come back. I think he's going to be another one of those guys that his market goes out there, but we know he's useful in this offense and that they have a nice chemistry, especially with downfield targets. So I think by probably June, he'll be a Kansas City Chief.
All right. If that happens tomorrow, that'd be crazy.
I would love just to be proven wrong by the timeline again.
Who knows, man? I mean, I know some of the older guys are waiting. Like, I'll be curious to see where McKinnon goes. I'll be curious. Like, Does Dunlap return? What about Brandon? Like some of those guys, those are the guys that normally are like, I'm gonna skip some of the some of the off-season stuff. I'll come back later.
Yeah, I mean, the veterans have every right to do that. McKinnon's going to wait his time out, just like everybody else too.
Thoughts on Trey Palmer out of Nebraska? Do you have any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I like Trey. He's an athletic, fast guy. Like, there's a couple of guys that are going to go in the first two days earlier. I think Trey's going to be a 4th round, maybe creep into the 3rd round type of pick. But a lot to talk about Jalen Hyatt. And I know a lot of people love Jalen Hyatt. I'm not a huge fan of Jalen Hyatt. And I would just rather take Trey Palmer in the 4th instead of anywhere near Jalen Hyatt in the 1st or 2nd. There's nothing that Trey Palmer does there's nothing that Jalen Hyatt does that Trey Palmer doesn't do. I think he's a better athlete too. So I'm just not a huge fan of Hyatt. Again, I'll say this with every draft prospect that I cover and talk about. If I have a negative stance on them, I hope they prove me wrong. I always want the best for these guys to make as much money as they possibly can, to have the best careers as they possibly can. But I don't think Jalen Hyatt's 1st round pick. I don't even think he's a 2nd round pick. I just think he's a very good, fast guy. He's got some developmental tools. He's really good at tracking the ball downfield. But I think Trey Palmer is a better athlete. He can do better after the catch. Nebraska tried to feature him that way. Tennessee did not try to feature Jalen Hyatt in any way with his yak ability. So I think Trey Palmer makes a lot of sense, especially when you consider how the Chiefs like to use Z and slot receivers. I would like to see a little bit more size in Kansas City personally. That's my own personal preference. But we know that Andy Reid doesn't necessarily care with the way he schemes everything up. So I like Trey Palmer quite a bit as a day 3 guy. Again, he might creep into the 3rd round, depending on how teams start to view him as the draft process goes along. But from the jump, when I was doing his evaluation, I did think he was more of a 4th round pick. But that can always change from now until the draft.
Do you feel good about where the Chiefs are currently? I know there's some needs there, but knowing that a couple smaller things could happen, maybe a couple free agents return, and then the draft is coming, you feel somewhat. I mean, it's in Veach we trust, right? But it's the offseason we got to talk about. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like, how confident do you feel about where the Chiefs are, and knowing that the draft is coming? You feel like by the time the draft's over, the Chiefs will have pretty much most of their needs met? You feel pretty confident in that, or is it going to be a training camp? They're signing some vets kind of a thing. I'm sure that'll happen, but I'm just curious to know your confidence level currently. Cause like I see some comments in here. They're like, I'm freaking out about the wide receiver room. Obviously we only see on the outside. We're not seeing on the inside. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's a tough spot to be in at the wide receiver position for them. It's when you look at the 3 guys that they essentially have, and then you have a bunch of inexperienced guys behind them. It's hard to be confident about what that is. But I personally think that those 3 receivers are going to be the core of their offense next year. Whoever they end up adding, whether it's trading for a veteran, signing somebody, or drafting, which I think 2 of those 3 things will happen. I personally think that they will. DJ Chark is another name that I think fits in Kansas City in terms of a deep threat who can also do some things over the middle, a little bit more dynamic than in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, in my opinion. A little bit younger as well. I've seen that name thrown around in the chat a little bit, but yeah. I'm personally confident about the team structure because at the end of the day, with the wide receiver group that Patrick Mahomes trotted out there in like 3-4 games in the middle of the season without Juju, without McCole Hardman, they were still able to get points on the board, win games, and be in most of their games at the end there. So they have an offensive line. We'll see about right tackle. I don't know what's going to happen there. They're going to draft somebody, whether that's going to be a backup to Lucas Niang or a starter, we'll see. But Patrick Mahomes is going to lead the offense. Their defense is still in really good shape. They're going to add some guys on the defensive line. But everywhere else, they're looking pretty good. They added a really competent safety in Mike Edwards that I'm excited to see what he does. Drew Tranquill, I think, is going to play far more as a dime, even nickel linebacker to cover some of the imperfections in Nick Bolton's game as a pass defender. So we'll see. I think the defense is going to be better next year than it was this year.
Bro, that Drew Tranquill signing threw me off. Because if you would have said, what position group on defense do you think the Chiefs need to address in free agency? I probably just would have said D-line.
Yeah.
And then maybe, I mean, safety for sure with Juan leaving, but the Drew Tranquil signing surprised me, but I love it. So I'm super excited about that. I know he chose the Chiefs. He said he chose, or it was reported he chose the Chiefs over 5 other teams. Love that. He's a converted safety. Kind of plug and play that guy as well. Yep, I'm definitely excited about that. And yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are in a pretty good place, but I understand the wide receiver concern. I just feel like Veach is up to something. I mean, last season, I feel like a broken record when I say this, but last season, they had Juju, they had MVS, and they were one of the final teams in on the A.J. Brown trade in the draft. Like, one of the final teams. Brett Veach was still hunting, and they had MVS and Juju. I mean, they didn't have Tony yet, obviously, but still, I mean, I'm sure Brett Veach is at least turning over every rock via some phone calls all over the league. So,
dude, he's got phones everywhere in Kansas City. I'm sure of it. I think he's got burner cell phones in trash cans. He has like anywhere he can possibly go. He's got cell phones in case his die. Like he's always on the phone. Someone's calling somebody, checking in on everybody. He's always in the phones.
Yeah, man. Here's something. It's not as serious, but barbecue in Kansas City. If you were to go somewhere, where are you going? I know you went to, I think you went to Oklahoma Joe's recently. You sometimes document where you go. Where's some of your favorite? I mean, we're going to start up an argument fest in the comments, but we're almost done with this interview, so I wanted to go KC Barbecue. Where are you going? Yeah. What's some of your top places?
Man, since I'm like an hour outside of Kansas City, it's harder for me to always go to some of the places that I want to go. Like I want to go to Chef Jay's, but it's hard for me to get out there at 12 to 3. Like I made the trek out there once before, like an hour, and I got there like an hour and a half before they were supposed to close. They sold out all their barbecue. So I'm like trying to figure out how to get down there. But I typically go to Jack Stack is my go-to. Like I know my typical order, it's always really good there, and I never have an issues ever with the quality. That's probably like my favorite place to frequent. I went to Joe's the first time, and that was an incredible experience. My daughter and I waited in line for probably, I would say, an hour 25 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Our food. So, and that was the first time I'd ever been there, and it was the original one in the gas station type feel place. It was really cool to have that experience. But again, you know, whenever I'm with my daughter someplace, she's always the most well-behaved child. Like we were in line. She never did anything wrong. She just like sat on my shoulders. We walked around a little bit. Like it was great. And then she acted like nothing was a big deal. So that was cool. I've had Q39 a couple times. They're okay. They're a little overpriced for my liking in terms of I can get everything better at Jack Stack. But I frequent Jack Stack. I'm at the place, the Jack Stack in Lee Summit, like almost every other weekend. We're going there this weekend, as a matter of fact, because my daughter wants a grilled ham and cheese. So she's going to get herself a grilled ham and cheese from Jack Stack. And I want to try a lot more places. I have had Gates. Gates was pretty good. And I went there with Charles Goldman when he came in last summer. He took me out to Gates for my first time. And he made sure that I had my order ready before I got up there, so I didn't get yelled at. So that was cool. I appreciate that.
Wow!
So
he didn't let you get yelled at for your first time at Gates. What an MVP, man! Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I've never heard of Chef Jay's before. I don't know if like people in the comments are gonna be mad at that. I had to Google it. Chef Jay Barbecue. Yeah. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I'm a big. I don't leave my house much, to be honest. I'm always down here making videos, but like we probably live 8 minutes from that Jack Stack in Lee Summit that you go to a lot. So Danny loves to go there. The girls love it. I mean, a good old Tank 7 on draft at Jack Stack never lets me down. So I love it, man.
When I went, man, it was great. Yeah,
dude. It's. I mean, I have bottles over here, but like on draft, it's like liquid gold. I mean, it is just. It is insane. You going to the draft? Are you doing any? Are you gonna be there? Are you guys streaming during the draft? What's the plan for RGR?
So we are applying for credentials to the draft. We're gonna see if we can get in.
Nice.
If not, we are gonna try to at least have a draft stream the first night. So we'll have someplace nailed down to try to have everyone come in and just kind of hang out and enjoy the draft as we cover it ourselves. I love doing it. I tell you what, right now, last year I got to host it by myself because Ryan was doing stuff in Houston for the
Locked On Draft, I think, right?
Locked On, yeah. So I had to hold it down myself. I won't have to do that this year. I'm so thankful for that. It was tough to do for by yourself, and I learned quite a bit in that experience. So this is going to be a lot of fun this year. It's the fact that it's in Kansas City is still wild to me, and I'm so excited to see what
Yeah,
ends
it's
up
wild.
happening. Hoping we get these credentials because we can bring that experience to a whole different level for everybody. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be streaming during it, but I ain't no draft expert. I'm going to have draft guides pulled up. I mean, we're just going to react and have fun. I'm going to have a couple editors
Yeah.
here with me, and we're going to pump out content all weekend. Got a mod flying down from Cali, Brand. And yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. But during the
Oh
day,
yeah.
I'm definitely going to try to get up there. I'm also having it just sold out, and I'm kind of glad we plugged it early, but I'm having a pre-draft event at Boulevard Brewery the night
Nice.
before the draft, so that'll be fun. Yeah, it just sold out yesterday, but super excited to hang out with everybody coming in for the draft. There was a couple more questions, I think, and then we'll definitely peel out of here. Oh, this isn't even a question. Oh Darn with the 5 said, "I will deliver brisket to RGR." So Oh Darn is a faithful
You can
viewer of I think of all of our channels, but he brought me and my wife and family brisket like I don't even
That's
know, like a
awesome.
couple of months ago. It was freaking fantastic. Yeah, so he's legit, and he means it. Chris, thanks so much for the 5 gifted, man. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, I mean that's about all that I had, man. I appreciate everybody hanging out. Dan, I know you are holding it down with your wife out of town. How long has your wife been out of town so far? Because she's in the military.
Uh-huh.
She's been
She's
gone
been
for
out
3 months. I mean, how long?
Yeah, since the end of December. She left like right after Christmas. So we had all the way, and she'll be back at the end of next month. So yeah, it's been a fun 3.5 months almost, going on 4 here. Trying to. This isn't the first time I've done this as well. You know, I had
Okay.
her when she was a bit younger. She was about 1.5. My wife had to deploy for 4.5 ish months. So I've done this
Okay.
before. It gets a little bit more difficult as she understands more about, well, mommy's not here. I want
Yeah.
I want to call mommy. I want to see her. I want to talk to her, and you can't always do that. So it does, funnily enough, get harder to deal with as they get older and they understand more. So it's she's still doing pretty good though.
There was a season of our life when my wife worked during the days and I was doing freelance photography, videography nights and weekends. I was just taking like any gig I could. And if it was during the day, I would see if a family member could watch my daughter. But I say all that to say there was like a good 6 to 9 month period there where during the days I watched it was my only daughter at the time, my oldest, and she was like 1.5-ish. But dude, I've told you this before, I think. It's just
Mhm.
enjoy these times because they're going to be older one day and you'll be able to look back and be like, even though you won't call me right now, I was super dad and I got to spend every day with you. Not every dad gets to do that. It's different for every family. And I definitely will never forget that time with my daughter, man. I remember the day I got hired as a lead videographer at a church in Lee Summit like a few years ago. And the last day of work, I was with my daughter, dude. And I mean, everybody in here knows I get weepy about my family, but dude, I just broke down, man, just thinking about going back to work and not being with my daughter. But I knew she was going to be with mom and it was going to be fine. But it was just, I knew that season was coming to an end. And so, yeah, man, I'm sure you're enjoying it. It's got its, it's not always easy. Parenting is probably the hardest thing ever, but it's definitely rewarding and you're holding it down, man. You're definitely, I mean it when I'm on socials being like, you are
I know.
dad of the year, super dad at Chiefs Kingdom, man.
I really do. I appreciate it. Being a stay-at-home dad has been the best experience of my life. I
Love it, man.
love getting to spend every day with her. Even this last week, where everything she's doing is just not listening to me. It's just you still have those moments of her realizing things, learning to explain things. She's testing her boundaries here with. I tell her you got 2 more minutes, and as soon as I tell you your time's up, she's like, "No, I'm going to knock down your light, and I'm going to figure out some other things." So she's finding out herself, and it's really cool to be here while she's looking for any way that she can to learn more about her surroundings, herself. So yeah, I love being able to do this. you're right though. It's the toughest thing I think I've ever done in my life, and I'm definitely enjoying the ride. But I always appreciate the support that you have continuously showed, and everyone. Honestly, the outreach that I've gotten from people who don't know me from bringing my daughter to the Senior Bowl was one of the most humbling experiences of my entire life. I'm still having people, like I was just on a podcast episode this morning, and a guy was talking to me about this. Like it's such an honor to be able to share this with my daughter and have other people talk to me about it and pay their respects. Like I'm not trying to be like all high and mighty about it, but like she's given me this opportunity to share my life with her and how we do things. So I'm incredibly blessed.
Love it, man. Yeah. Girl dad. Love that. That's all I got. I got Danny. I got both of my girls, and then my grandma lives close. It's all girls. I'm surrounded. So love it, bro. How can people find you and find more of your work? Cause I know you're on social media, you're on Twitter, I know, but you want to give a little plug on where they can find some of your work and RGR and all that?
Absolutely. So if you got most of you, I know that there are quite a few guys and people in here that are RGR followers. We love the guys, everyone over there. RGRfootball.com. That's where all of my film reviews, the live streams, the live mock drafts that Ryan and I are going to be doing every Sunday. I believe my latest video just dropped today on Jawan Taylor, the new left tackle for the Chiefs. You can find it right there. It'll be on the front page. Again, I also do stuff for the Fantasy Football Astronauts, fantasyfootballastronauts.com. My Twitter page at InHarmsWay19. I have clips go up every single day. Film breakdowns and more draft talk. I'll be posting more up there after we're done here. What I'm going to do is go right back to watching more film after we're done here. Staying up to do more of that. And then on TikTok at InHarmsWay19, I'm pumping out more film and draft content over there as well. What's 19? Are you a huge Tony fan? I'm just kidding. What's 19? So 19 is my favorite number. My favorite Detroit Red Wing growing up was Steve Yzerman, one of the greatest hockey players to ever live. I grew up in Michigan, so 19's always been my favorite number. I just attach it to just about everything. I was definitely trolling about Tony. You've had that number way longer than he's been here, but I see 19. I'm like, oh, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. It was long overdue, and if absolutely you guys ever need me, you don't need me over there, but if you ever want to collab on your side, I'm always down to come on. Absolutely. I tell you right now, we're going to have you on. Promise you that much. Let's do it. Yeah, man. Have a good one. Thanks again. You too. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Me and Dan, we've been talking about connecting. We've been talking about collabing for quite a while, and it was really cool. I've also been talking with Ryan Tracy about doing something too. Maybe we'll all do something. I don't know. We'll see what's down the road. I've got Brandon Perna down the pipeline. Seth Kaiser is going to come on down the pipeline. I've got some others in the works. I've got a Chiefs player in the works. I'm not going to say who, because if it falls through, I don't want you guys to be like, what? Why didn't it work out? But I do have a Chiefs player that said he'd love to come on. And so I'm trying to schedule that. Basically, man, in the off season, I'm trying to bring in and just collab with the Chiefs, not just Chiefs, but yeah, Chiefs channels that are doing great things too. Maybe we'll do something with KCSN. I would love that. But also some of the draft guys. So, and then Brandon Perna, I mean, he's been awesome. You guys know who he is. Most of you know who he is. He runs a big YouTube channel, That's Good Sports. I've got a coffee out with him, and he's a really good dude. He's freaking funny. So we're going to talk next week, I think, about AFC West moves in a live stream, and I'm super stoked about that. Doug, what's up, guys? Yeah, thanks so much for hanging out. This was an extra live stream. Dan said, I said, hey, I know you're holding it down with your daughter, but when's an ideal time? He said 8 p.m., and we could do our best there. So appreciate that. Avery is the star of the show often at RGR, so I'm glad that she could stop in and say what's up. Cole, is the merch back up and working? Oh, was it down? I don't know. Merch.howaboutthosechiefs.com. No, it's all up and working. Yeah, exclamation point merch should get you there. You guys got to let me know. I think they're still dealing with some slow delivery times, so you have to be a little patient, which is unfortunate. I'm possibly going to be switching my
basically the people who host my merch, but it's not because they make bad quality. I've ordered a bunch of their stuff and it's always been fine, but their shipping times around the turn of the year got pretty slow, and I don't like how long it's taking. So if it doesn't get fixed here soon, I mean, definitely this offseason, we'll find a faster company. But dude, Greg with the 100 bomb after dropping 20 gifted, and thanks so much for all that. But also, Greg Coleman has gifted 4 tickets to the draft event at Boulevard Brewery, and it is sold out. Like, you can't actually go and get more tickets right now. We've sold out. We sold out all 150. But we have 4 saved that Greg Coleman bought, and we're going to give them away in a members-only live stream here soon, probably this weekend. So keep your eyes peeled for that if you're a member. There's been a lot of gifted stuff, so you probably are, a lot of you are probably members, and you could join that live stream. We're going to give away a jersey of your choice. It's from NFLshop.com, so the official jerseys. You can pick one. If you win, we'll give away some coffee. We'll give away some tickets to that event. If you're in Kansas City, maybe you couldn't afford a ticket or you weren't able to get it before they sold out. So I'm super excited about that. Thanks for all the support, man. Wolfman Trucker with the 2 said, super happy for your success. I appreciate that a ton. Darn said sold out. Yeah, there was 10 last night, and then they all just went. I've actually had a couple people email me and ask if I had any extra tickets. I have these 4 from Greg, and we are completely sold out. If for some reason, I don't even know how the return policy and stuff works, but like if some people cancel or something, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, we are sold out. Sold out, which is super exciting. It'll be 150 people there at Boulevard, and beer, barbecue, hanging out, talking Chiefs, celebrating a Super Bowl win, 100K subs, the draft being in Kansas City. It's going to be a great time. Greg has the golden tickets. That's right. Alex Jones, what the heck? Okay, that's fine. Anyway, man, I'm going to jump off. I got a YouTube short to work on. This was only going to be an hour stream. Thanks. I mean, I don't know if Dan's going to be watching this late, but dude, thanks so much for your time. And hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll do some more collabs here in the off season. We'll do another one with Carrington here soon. That's always fun. And if there's anybody else you guys want to see me collab with, I'll just reach out at this point. I mean, thankfully the channel is at 100,000 subs, and that does help. It has a little bit of pull. So if there's somebody you want to see, I can reach out to them and see if we can get them to come in. Maybe I'll reach out to Grassi and see if he's available. We'll have some fun, man. We'll do some different collabs this off season to help pass the time, as we have a long time to go before football starts. But when's the next live? Smoking. It's going to be Friday. So most of my lives are Tuesday night and Friday afternoon, which you know. But
when it's grim, be the grim.
Wolfman Trucker said, just because you said Alex Jones. Yeah, man. When I saw that comment, I was like, oh, man. I didn't read it out loud, but thanks for the 5.
Be the grim
Alex Jones. That's an interesting name. So yeah, we stream Tuesday nights. This was a bonus stream. Basically with my guests, the surprise streams, I go to my guests and I say, hey, let me know what time you're available and I'll just make it happen. So it's pretty much next week. If we do one with Seth Kaiser, it's going to probably be a lunchtime stream. That's when he has the most free time. So that's when we'll probably do that. Who doesn't like coffee? I don't know. Andy Reid don't like coffee. I think it's a religious preference, but I love coffee. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Dude, thanks so much for all the dono bombs. Oh, I missed this. Sean Hooker with the 6 months. Do you think we'll run it back? I freaking hope so, man. That's the hope every year, right? I think as long as you've got the core pieces there, Mahomes, Andy Reid, you're going to have Travis Kelce. You've got, the O-line that you have. I mean, at least the interior trio, the linebacker core, Chris Jones is over there. I mean, as long as you got the key pieces, you always have a shot. So I'm definitely excited to see how it all pans out. Let's see what else happens in free agency, see what else happens in the draft. But they were doubting the Chiefs like crazy last season. Tyreek Hill gone. AFC West acquiring Devontae Adams, Russell Wilson, Chandler Jones, Khalil Mack, like all these crazy moves going to the West, and they have made some good moves this year. Interestingly enough, the Raiders released Derek Carr to then sign a better looking yet more injury prone Derek Carr and Jimmy G. Very interesting. Wolfman, dude, I am not financially responsible. LOL with the two. Hey, thanks so much, man. I have a few streamers I follow, and I love to drop donos and just support them, man. I've been a huge YouTube fan, Twitch fan for many, many years. So the fact that I get to do this for a living, it's incredible, man. And I am beyond humbled and grateful for all the support. Thanks again, guys, for hanging out. Likes, all the comments, the donos. I appreciate you guys. And I hope you enjoyed Dan Harms. That was a lot of fun. We've been talking about connecting for a while, and we may connect again in the future playing some video games. It's probably not going to be on this channel, but we're trying to work that out. We'll see. But until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. Yo, man, it's Trevor Lawrence. Hope you have a good night, man.